In this clip, I'm going to talk about how we can use a combination of Excel and Moodle quizzes to enable you prepare for your exam next week. So I'm about to send you all an email very soon, and the files you need to use for the email are in this folder here, Sample MS Excel Exam, updated March 25th. So it's under topic 11 of my module. So if I go into this folder, the file I want you to use immediately is this programmer file with March 25th on it as the date. So you had an older version of that file. Please ignore the older version and download and use this version. So now I'm going back to Moodle to the main page. So you've got this, that's where you get the spreadsheet. And then when you're working on the spreadsheet, when you've finished working on the spreadsheet, you're then going to do some quizzes in Moodle. So I'm going to come back to the quizzes in a moment. The first quiz relates here to question 1 about simple Excel functions, and the second quiz, number 2, about Excel statistical functions. So on this screen here, I have the Excel spreadsheet opened, and I have the spreadsheet, some background details about it, about there being 5 questions here, and that there's corresponding Moodle quizzes. Quiz 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I explain about how to approach the quizzes. And when you're doing the quizzes, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to take the answers to the questions, so like this, the countif function, and copy to one of the quizzes and enter it as an answer, and then Moodle will confirm if it's right or wrong. But I'll come back to that in a little while. So I'm going to first of all look at, say, question 1. So question 1 on this document has 4 simple questions to answer. And the first one is to ask us to get the cumulative earnings for programmers. So the earnings column here is column G. So what I want to do is I want to add up and get the total earnings for all my programmers. So I'm going to be using those cells. But I want my answer to appear in this colored cell here down the bottom. So I'm going to use my auto sum feature, get the sum function, and then I'm going to select the range of cells. I'm not going to select any of the blank cells that are down here at the end. I just want to get the exact range of cells for my 50 programmers. So don't include any blank cells in those formulae at the end of the list. So there's my sum function, sum of G2 to G51, so I press return. And the answer isn't being displayed because the format is, the column wasn't wide enough, so if I now display it, so that's the answer of the value that's generated, and here's the formula behind it, the function behind it. So when we're doing the Moodle quiz later on, we're going to be using both the function, the sum function, and we're going to be using the answer of 1,965,000. So quickly I go on and do the second one, which is the largest earnings for programmers. So that's going to be the max. So I can go up again to the auto sum function and choose the max option from the list. And it initially targets the cell above it, but I want to choose the range of cells for all my 50 programmers, just like a moment ago, and get the maximum earnings. And then similarly for the minimum earnings, likewise to auto sum again, and again I picked the wrong function, so I'm going to go for a minimum, and it thinks I want the 50,000, but I don't. So I'm going to delete that and start again. So I choose min, and I again choose the same range of cells, and I get 25,000 as my lowest earnings. And finally I'll do the average because it's the 4th one on the list. So the average is one of the other available functions. So again, I ignore its default choice and instead go back to my 50 rows. So in each case here, I have an answer displayed on screen and I have a formula behind it. I have an Excel function behind it. So the sum function is the first one, as you can see up here in the top. And the average function is the last one. So the average of G2 to G51. So what happens next is that if you've done this and you want to confirm if your answers are correct or incorrect, what you're going to do is switch to Moodle. And in Moodle I have this quiz generated, as I said. So I'm going to go and tackle quiz number 1. So when I'm doing it in lecturer mode, I can do a preview. So I'm not doing the quiz itself, I'm doing a preview of the quiz, but it's the same net result at the end. So what I've done here is I have the exact same 4 questions as you saw on the Excel screen. Number 1, calculate the total earnings for our programmers. And the formula that I've used needs to go in this text box here. So I'm going to go back to Excel, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab my sum function. just copy it and flick back to Moodle and paste it in the cell. And then the other part of the answer is my total, the value that was generated. I think that's, again, is 1,965,000. So you don't put any commas or punctuation, you just go 1,965,000. And then the second question, I'll just do that one as well, is to calculate the largest earnings for programmers. And for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to deliberately make a little mistake in what I've just done. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'll, for my max function, I'm going to deliberately leave a space here before I copy it. I'm going to leave a space, say, after the word max, and a space before the G2 and maybe after the G51. And then I'm going to copy it. I'm going to escape out of Moodle or of Excel, click across the Moodle and paste it in. So I have spaces in here that you wouldn't normally want in your command. And the value that's generated, I need to just check that again and see what is it. It's 50,000. So I go back and type in 50,000, but I'm going to make a mistake. I'll make it 50,001. And what I can do then, I could answer the remaining questions if I want. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish the attempt and see what Moodle says to me. So it tells me I have an incomplete answer, but I'm going to just still go back and submit all and finish. And that I won't be able to change it afterwards. So what's happened here is Excel has marked my answers incorrectly. So the form, it doesn't like the formula for some reason in the first one. Okay, the value is fine. In the second one, I was expecting this, that the formula would be incorrect because of my deliberate spacing, and the value is 50,001. So this perhaps has got something to do with my settings. So I'm just going to change into my settings for a moment. This isn't really relevant to the quiz, but I'm just going to chance changing some settings in case it helps fix my little problem straight away. So I'm going to tick this box and see what happens after that. I'll save my changes. I'll go back again, it's fixed it, yeah. So there was a little setting there that I needed to change. So the first two answers for question 1 are correct, and the answers for question 2 are incorrect. So the message in this is be very careful about your the way you approach the questions. Okay, and in terms of leaving, don't leave any spaces anywhere in your formulae unless they are essential. And the long and short of it is spaces are not required in your formula. So if you have the time, what I'd like you to do is when you download this spreadsheet, read this introductory page, okay, and then go on tackle question 1 like I did. And when you have question 1 answered, go back to Moodle and paste in the various bits of the answer that I asked you to paste in. In later questions, say in question 3 here, it involves you writing if statements. Okay, so the question here is talking about the holidays for programmers. And there's an if statement that needs to be written in cell here Q6. But at the end of the exercise, I'm not going to ask you to copy 50 if statements, one from each cell, into Moodle in the quiz. So what I've done is I've identified 3 or 4 rows in each spreadsheet. So the first row usually, and I've colored them blue. So that means that you're meant to take the if statement for question 1, this one, or sorry, row 1, and use that as one of your answers in Moodle. Then if you go down row 30, in other words, programmer 30, not row 30 itself, the 30th programmer, number 30 here in the list, the if statement for him or her will also be the next one. I'll just color it yellow, that cell, whatever that cell contains. And lastly, the very last row, row number 50 for green here, the if statement for him or her. So typically, where you're doing if statements like this, you'll be copying in 3 or a sample, 3 or 4 of the if statements or the commands that you've used. So that's the way you approach the quizzes and Excel. So you do your work in Excel first, you answer your question, and then you flick to Moodle and you fill in the quizzes. So I hope that makes sense. Best luck to everybody, and I'll be in touch with you again over email the next day or so.